It was July 3rd, 2015. Crystal Rogers, a 35-year-old mother of 5 children from Bardstown, Kentucky, was at her boyfriend Brooks Houck's family farm. Brooks and Crystal had been together for over a year and shared a child, Crystal's youngest. But after that, no one has seen Crystal. She vanished. This was devastating for Crystal's parents, and her dad, Tommy Ballard, made it his mission to find his missing daughter. He searched for her every day for 16 months until someone ended his search with a gunshot to his chest. It's now 8 years later, and Crystal is still missing, but now a major development in the case. Brooks Houck is under arrest, charged in her murder. Houck had been a suspect for years. He had spoken to investigators. He had his property searched. And tonight, we get all the latest in the arrest and piece together what happened as we continue to investigate the disappearance of Crystal Rogers. I'm Vinny Politan. Great to have you with us tonight. It's a story we've been covering now for years here on this show, and it goes back even further. The disappearance of Crystal Rogers, a mother of 5. Now, throughout all of this, there has been a long-time suspect, Brooks Houck, the man she was with, the father of her youngest child, long-time suspect. And whether you're a podcaster or whether you are someone just kind of, hey, what do we think happened here? You know, a little common sense. And everyone was looking in that same direction that obviously investigators were looking. The last person to see her alive. The man who was the father of her youngest child. The man who was with her the day she disappeared. All of this significant, and until you can eliminate that person, they'll always be on the radar, but here there were other things that were very, very suspicious. Now, you can put circumstances together as a prosecutor, which I was, but you only get one chance in that courtroom. And many times, whether it's the investigators or the prosecutor, you look at the case and you say, do we have enough here? We are convinced that we're looking in the right place, and these pieces make sense, but we need more. We need more inside that courtroom, because you know how great the burden is that prosecutors have. The defendant, as our Constitution says, is presumed innocent. They come into the courtroom, the judge tells them, his lawyer tells them, this guy's presumed innocent. Then you have to prove each and every element of the crime beyond a reasonable doubt. And that is a tough burden in a case where you have not recovered someone's remains or body. Very difficult. And in this case, they had circumstances that led to searches and other things that they did in the case, including questioning him. But prosecutors said, we need more. We need more. Inside information is what they needed. Where do you get inside information? You get it from a co-conspirator. You put him in the interrogation room and you ask him questions, and maybe you cut a deal with them. And from them, you get the inside information. And that's what prosecutors need sometimes. The inside information that will put the pieces together for that jury in the courtroom. Right? You've got this piece of evidence here, this piece of evidence here, another piece over here, right? And to glue them all together, to give them the context, if you have someone who's in on it to whatever degree, who can tell you things that you couldn't learn anywhere else, that's when you have enough as a prosecutor, if you've got that other circumstantial evidence. Now, in this case, again, they've been very, very tight-lipped, to put it mildly. They've released some things, and we've seen the searches, et cetera. So they've made an arrest here. But don't forget, and I don't want you to forget, because Crystal's dad, Tommy Ballard, He was murdered. Somebody shot him in the chest. 16 months he was leading the charge in the search for his daughter, doing what so many of the parents that are watching right now would do. And this dad was out there, and this dad was shot and killed. That's the only reason he stopped searching for it, because he was murdered. So what about dad? Is there anything connecting his murder to the accused in this case, or anyone else connected to the accused? I'm sure that investigation is going on as well. Well, good news tonight, folks, because we have a great affiliate. Scripps News in Lexington, Kentucky, has been diving deep into this story throughout, and Angie Bevan has this information for us tonight.
July 5th, 2015, 35-year-old Crystal Rogers, a mother of 5 children, is reported missing by her mother. That same day, Rogers' car is found along the Bluegrass Parkway with a flat tire and her phone, keys, and purse still inside. Rogers was last seen 2 days earlier at the home of Brooks Houck, her boyfriend at the time, with whom she shares 1 child. In October of 2015, 3 months after her disappearance, police announced Crystal Rogers is presumed dead. The Nelson County Sheriff's Office names Brooks Houck as their prime suspect in Rogers' disappearance. But he was not arrested or charged in those early days and years of the investigation. In the following months, Crystal's family would work tirelessly, conducting searches, speaking to the media, pushing and hoping for anyone with information on what happened to her to come forward. November 19th, 2016, about 16 months after Crystal Rogers' disappearance, her father, Tommy Ballard, is shot and killed while out hunting early in the morning. No one has been named a suspect in his death. Years pass, and in August of 2020, the FBI steps in, searching the homes of Brooks Houck and his brother, Nick, a then Bardstown police officer, as well as the Houck family farm. 1 year later, in August of 2021, the FBI finds what they call items of interest after digging up a concrete driveway at a rental home in a Bardstown neighborhood, a property owned by Brooks Houck. Still, more than 8 years pass from the time of Rogers' disappearance in 2015 with no arrests or charges. Then, August 15th, 2023, state police arrest 32-year-old Joseph Lawson, charging him with criminal conspiracy to commit murder and tampering with evidence. Today, the FBI arrested Brooks Houck, charging him with murder and tampering with evidence. A judge set his bond at $10 million.
And joining us now from Lexington, Kentucky, anchor at Scripps News Lexington, Nancy Cox is back with us. Nancy, great to see you. Thanks so much. Long-time suspect, long time coming. What were you surprised today when all of this went down?
Surprised is probably not the word, because in August, when Joseph Lawson was arrested, we felt this had to be coming. But yet, when you get that news, it still sort of shocks the system, because after 8 years, after everyone in that community, her family saying this had to be Brooks Houck, you just couldn't believe they were ever going to actually arrest him. And then we wake up this morning and we see him being led into jail, and it was a very surreal moment. I can only imagine what it was like for Sherry Ballard, Crystal's mother.
Absolutely. So what do we know about Brooks Houck? And the first question I always have going into these when someone is accused, is this a guy who's got wealth, some level of money? I see the bond is at $10 million. What do we know about his background and what his ability is going to be to defend himself?
I think it's safe to say he'll be able to pay for an attorney, any attorney that he wants. He's a businessman. He has several rental properties. He does some construction. And then there's talk of other activities that he may be involved in. Again, all conjecture at this point. But the mere fact his bond was set at $10 million, I think that indicates that it is believed that Houck is a man of means.
I want to put up a statement from the FBI today, and this is how many of us found out about this. FBI Louisville and the Kentucky State Police have arrested Brooks Houck without incident on charges stemming from the Crystal Rogers investigation. The Houck indictment remains sealed, and additional details will be revealed during Houck's arraignment in early October in the Nelson County Circuit Court. So is there any other information that you all have uncovered?
Very little. We know the actual charges against him. It is murder or I should say it is conspiracy to commit murder and tampering with evidence. And we know that's a charge that's tacked on to just about every case. So we don't know a lot. We know what the bond is. We know what the charges are. But everyone's going to be waiting for that October 5th arraignment to see if we get anything else. The actual indictment was unsealed today, but great portions of it were redacted. So as they've done all along since the FBI took this case, they're being extremely quiet about what they know, sending only the message that they will not give up. A lot of people thought that was a promise that couldn't be kept. But lo and behold, what many of us thought we'd never see, Brooks Houck behind bars tonight.
So with those redactions, sometimes indictments are sealed because and this is a conspiracy case, because there's other people who are on the radar who they may be getting ready to arrest, and they want to keep some information away from those people or persons. Any indication one way or the other if they were just redacting specifics about what happened or people potentially involved in this alleged conspiracy?
All of the above. They've redacted what led to the actual evidence against Houck that justified an arrest. We don't yet know for certain his connection with Joseph Lawson, who was also arrested and charged in connection with Crystal's case. We do know that a man named Stephen Lawson worked for Brooks Houck back at the time of Crystal's disappearance, and we believe that Joseph is his son. So again, there are connections. You can see that web developing, but we don't yet know what. What has Stephen Lawson said over the last month that led to Brooks Houck, his arrest today? Or what have others said? Will there be other arrests? There is some indication we are getting that yes, there will be other arrests, but certainly today's is the biggest and the one most long awaited for.
Absolutely. I mean, but other arrests could be extremely indicative of what happened here and why it happened and how this murder was carried out, according to prosecutors and their theory. Now, any more information about bringing her home, about finding Crystal Rogers' remains?
When the FBI took over the case a few years ago, Sherry Ballard said they were very frank with her. And they said, we're not here to give you Crystal. Apparently, they did not feel that was going to happen or was likely. But they said, we are here to give Crystal justice. That certainly seems to indicate they have no remains. They don't have maybe immediate hope of recovering any remains, but they believe they have evidence to hold those responsible for her disappearance and her murder, hold them and bring them to justice.
What about Dad? What about Tommy Ballard, who, was out there?
We've heard nothing.
He was out there leading the charge all along, right? Very, very vocal, very loud, that he's going to find his daughter. He's going to, get a sense of justice. Anything on his murder?
Not as of yet. It's been assumed by many all along that his murder is directly tied to Crystal's. Hard to argue against that. Sherry Ballard has said that if they find who murdered Crystal, they'll find who murdered Tommy. But we have yet to hear any direct evidence, any indication that there are any developments in that specific part of this case. But there are two schools of thought here. Tommy was close to something, close to finding out something. That's what Sherry believed at the time, and that's why he's dead. Or, like you said, he was very loud. He was out there. He was vowing never to give up. He was vowing never to leave Brooks Houck alone until he found something out. So was he too close to something, or was that brashness just a little too much for someone to take, and they wanted to silence him?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, in all these years and covering all these cases, the most powerful force in a missing person's search is usually the parent who is looking for their son, their daughter, whether it's a small child or an adult child. That love, that bond is so powerful, and that's how cases stay front and center, period. That's what I've seen. Speaking of the family, I want to put this up. This is from the Team Crystal Facebook post, the family statement. This morning, the Ballard family received word that Brooks Houck was arrested for an indictment warrant after being indicted by a Nelson County grand jury. Brooks Houck was named the #1 suspect in Crystal's case in 2015. We want to thank the FBI, Kentucky State Police, Nelson County Sheriff's Office, Attorney General's Office, Commonwealth Attorney Shane Young, and staff, as well as juries. At this time, we ask for privacy, as this is another step forward for justice for Crystal. Continue to pray that justice is served and we bring Crystal home. We will not be conducting any interviews at this time. We ask any questions or comments be referred to the FBI. Her youngest child, the man who's now accused of murdering her, is the father of her youngest child. Any indication one way or the other how that child is doing, where that child is tonight?
We do not know. At first, Sherry was trying so hard to keep connection there with Crystal's youngest son. She had lost her daughter. This was one of her last connections to her, but she was denied any right in court to have access to the child. So other than seeing him around town, seeing him around Bardstown, she had no information about how he was doing. So imagine losing your daughter. I can't even begin there. Then her husband, and then essentially losing that youngest grandchild from Sherry. It's just too much.
It really is.
And that child has been deprived of his heritage on Crystal's side, his grandmother, his siblings, his aunts and uncles. He's had no contact.
Nancy Cox, anchor at Scripps News Lexington. Incredible insight, great reporting. I'm sure we'll be speaking again. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, folks, when we come back, we're going to take a look at Brooks Houck and his interview, his own words. Looking at them in light of what has happened now will be very interesting. Plus, coming up next hour. Big breaking news in Chaffee County, Colorado. Suzanne Morphew went missing on Mother's Day in 2020. Her husband was arrested and charged with her murder, but then the charges were dropped. Now tonight, her remains have finally been found. We have the details.
Oh, Suzanne, if anyone is out there that can hear this, that has you, please, we'll do whatever it takes to bring you back. We love you, we miss you, your girls need you.
A tragedy in the Hollywood Hills. Prominent therapist Dr. Amy Hardwick found fatally injured under her balcony.
Her ex-boyfriend on trial for her murder.
She had had a restraining order against him.
He strangled her, lifted her up over the balcony, and dropped her.
He never intended on killing her.
Is this a case of a jilted lover turned obsessive stalker?
The Hollywood Obsession Murder Trial. Trial coverage weekday mornings at 8/7 Central on Court TV.
Had you and Crystal ever talked about breaking up?
I mean, obviously we had fought just like
any other couple, but in the last several years, I mean, it's came up, but we've always found ourselves together moving forward.
You hear that all the time. You know, when a man is accused of murdering, you know, his spouse or girlfriend, significant other, they always try to, oh yeah, we fought, you know, like everybody else did. Oh, you're arrested now, so it's not like everyone else. But obviously that interview way before, Brooks Houck, now under arrest, but gave a voluntary statement. He was interviewed when Crystal Rogers went missing. She still hasn't been found. I want to play some more of this police interview. This part, they're talking about that day, that July 3rd, where Crystal and Brooks and their son all went from where they were living to the Houck family farm. Let's watch.
Did you learn anything Friday night when you were out there?
Yeah, yes, it's not uncomfortable. I don't want the stuff piled up to the moon. I always light a fire. There was a little pile, probably, I'll write that on there. Right here with this little pile here. I think y'all may have covered it up. Y'all got
I think we did.
Slung stuff everywhere, but
yeah, I apologize. It
don't matter.
Well, the dog, that lady's dog, she said acted like there was something under there.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine.
You had a little fire. When was that? After you took your walk or before you took your walk?
I lit it. I don't know if I lit it right before we took off walking. I know we fed the cows first because I want to do that as quickly while we had still plenty of daylight. I don't know if I lit the fire before we walked back here or right when I got back. I could have done it either one. I don't remember.
All right, so you guys, you've taken your walk. The fire is down, maybe not out, but it's down enough. And you're leaving, and it looks, again, looking at the video, looks like it's about 5 minutes till midnight.
All right.
That's, to me, and I've got a couple of kids, you know, but everybody parents a little differently. To me, it seems a little late to be out on the farm with a 2.5-year-old. Where is he at midnight? Has he been asleep in the car for a while? Is he still?
No, he's still wide open, and any night he's so used to sleeping so later in the morning. His normal day, that's his 7, 8 o'clock in the evening.
So you guys get back and load up in the truck. Excuse me, load up in the truck, and you drive back. You leave out. I see you leave out the driveway at about 11:55. Somebody passes you on the drive back on Loretta Road about 10 minutes after midnight or so. He says roughly. We're still kind of narrowing that down, but roughly sees you about 10 after midnight, which wouldn't be uncommon. It's been raining most of the day. You know, the roads are kind of wet. 15 minutes from your mom's house to the golf course. There's Caddyshack. Not a big deal there. And so do you remember, or did you go straight home on Friday night, or did y'all stop somewhere? Or, because I'm thinking if that's their normal 7, 8 o'clock in the evening, it might be dinner time. Did you stop and eat something, or did you go straight home?
We did not eat anything. I went straight home.
So when you wake up, he's there, but Crystal's not.
She's not.
She just disappeared. I mean, we went home and then she disappeared. Let's bring in our guests. Joining us tonight from Nashville, Tennessee, private investigator Heather Cohen. In Michigan City, Indiana, private investigator, founder of Victims News Online, Erica Morse. And in Chicago, Illinois, criminal defense attorney and host of Defense Diaries, Bob Mata is with us. Heather Cohen also worked on this case. All right, Heather, let me start here. In that part of the interview, he's talking about this burn pile or burn pit, whatever it is, and some woman's dog was acting like there was something there. What do we know about the investigation of the Houck family farm, the last place she was known to have been alive?
I can tell you that a lot of people believe that Crystal is still on that farm. I can tell you that a lot of people believe that the murder happened. I say the murder, and she's still missing. So I know we all believe that she is murdered, was murdered.
Well, prosecutors do, because they charged Brooks with murder, so they believe so. I'm sure there's a defense attorney somewhere who's just got the case that says no, but go ahead, continue. I'm sorry.
that is the crime scene. Everybody knows it. We've known it for a long time.
Erica Morse, that interview has bothered me from the beginning. There's something that's, to me, is really off about him and the way he is. What are your thoughts about his words and his explanation of what happened? He just woke up and she's not there.
Woke up and she's not there. I'll tell you, Vinny, it's funny because when I was making the notes for tonight, I focused on that video. It was one of the strangest interviews I've ever seen. He was so unemotional. He had such a flat affect. Now, about 54 minutes in, he started to stammer. And that was when he was asked about finding Crystal. And he said something about he wanted to bring her home. And then he paused and he was like, safely. So he already kind of let it go. And then we have this weirdness of him calling Steve Lawson, talking about rental properties and numbers. He kind of started to give it away back then in July of 2015. That's why he's always been the prime suspect.
Bob Mata, let's take a listen to that part of the interview where he picks up the phone, makes a phone call. It's all on video. Let's watch.
We're still getting video from different places, that along that route.
Can I get this?
Sure. Can you come over?
No. I'm up here. I know that you didn't know I'm up here in this interview with the Detective Snow. I've been up here a good little while. I'm filling out this statement here and everything. Are you telling me that's what I need to do? I'm not. I know that. But the way that I look at it is, I'm innocent. I ain't done nothing wrong. Well, I know you told me innocent people have got jammed up, but if you're telling me to leave, I'll get up and leave. If you want me to. I know I'm going through a lot, but I'm trying to get this guy to help me. I don't think she's ran off with some other guy. I don't believe that. You can't make me think that. No. Yeah, so do I. I'll do exactly what you're telling me to do right now. You want me to get up and leave? Man, I don't think these guys. I don't think these people are vindictive just to skin me for no reason. Man, this is not their family. This is not. All right, thank you. He thinks y'all little is what he thinks.
I don't know who he is.
Nick, my brother. No, I know that, but I'm not. He just said just to keep sitting up here, he said give a statement, do an interview, whatever I got to do it. But he said, darn, just to keep letting them just beat you to death over this right here. Just ask what you got to ask and let
and you tell me.
You see I mean, he knows more about this than I do.
So you think she maybe ran off with somebody else? You mean I should just leave? I shouldn't give a statement here? They'll just beat me to death here? Bob, what is Brooks doing here? Is he trying out for a bad reality show?
It sure seemed like it.
Wow.
And it's funny, at the beginning of the conversation, you can clearly hear his brother through the phone. And then as the conversation progressed, I wasn't hearing the brother's voice through the phone. It seemed staged. I have to be honest, it seemed to me like he was saying things that obviously he wanted the cop to hear, basically professing his innocence via this phone call through his brother. It's It's an interesting interview in a lot of different ways.
Well, maybe they should have taken some improv classes, just to get a better feel for, because like my acting coach always taught me, acting is reacting, right? There's a whole thing to it. This was Heather. Did this bother you also? I mean, from the beginning, it's awkward. And then his brother, by the way, a police officer. Or former.
It's painful. It was very painful. And anybody that's even slightly trained in statement analysis is going to see a lot of red flags in that.
Yeah, Erica, there's so much to glean from all of this. But the other part is he's been charged with conspiracy. We know there's one person in custody. We'll talk about him coming up. But I spoke with our local reporter out there, our anchor, in Lexington, who said there may be some more arrests here. So a lot of people might be sweating things out right now.
I can think of two who should be very scared, and that's Nick Houck and Steve Lawson.
Yeah. Bob, what do you think's happening right now? What do you think is kind of happening behind the scenes as all of this has broken in the news today?
Yeah, like anytime somebody gets arrested, they then get more access to his property, to his devices, to everything. They're digging into this guy way more than they had accessibility prior to the arrest. I mean, this is the point where the investigation is going full steam ahead. So they are absolutely digging into everything, all of his devices, all of his properties. I mean, that is going full force right now. And that typically only happens after the arrest. A lot of people have a misconception that, the investigation stops when there's arrest. Hardly. That investigation goes full bore as soon as that guy's in custody, because they have more access than they have at any point prior to this day.
And as I mentioned, this is a conspiracy case, and they've arrested Joseph Lawson. We'll talk about him next as we continue to investigate the disappearance of Crystal Rogers.
What do you think happened? I'm shocked. I do not know.
I've worked hard all my life. I've gone from being a local reporter to becoming a law student to then even going on to teach other lawyers, all before I came to Court TV. As a journalist, lawyer, and teacher, I learned the secret to success is speaking in your authentic voice. And I bring that lesson to my show, Opening Statements, every morning on Court TV.
Opening Statements with Julie Grant. Weekday mornings at 8, 7 Central. Only on Court TV.
Who is Steve Lawson? He's somebody that works for me.
That name, extremely significant. Steve Lawson, as you heard from Brooks Houck, now charged with the murder of Crystal Rogers, the mother of one of his sons, one of his children, his son. Joseph Lawson, who it's believed to be the son of Steve Lawson, has been arrested in this case as one of the co-conspirators. He was arrested first. Now Brooks Houck has been arrested. What about Steve Lawson? Well, his name came up in that police interview, and there was another phone call. Let's take a listen.
I need your help while I got you on the phone here. Do you remember the other night you called me really late, and I forgot what you asked me. Can you? I guess we wasn't on the phone. I might have been tired. I know it was pretty late at night. Can you remember what you asked me or what you were after? I can't remember.
Yes, sir, I can. I called to ask you for them numbers for a house.
Oh, for a rental house.
Yes, sir.
And what did I forgot? What did I tell you?
You told me that you would call. What's her name? Katie or whatever. She handles all that.
Crystal.
Okay, I apologize.
Yeah.
And she said she handles all that, and that you would get back with me on it.
All right. Thank you so much, Neil.
Hey, if there's anything I can do, you give me a call.
Thank you. You have a good night now.
Yes, sir. God bless you.
Thank you.
So that begs a question in my mind.
All right.
If she's in the truck next to you when he called, why would you need to call her about getting numbers for rental
Because
property?
being that late at night, we're headed to the house, you know, I just wouldn't, she normally's not going to deal with stuff that late. And I mean, I probably didn't even look at the phone to see who it was calling me. I'm sure I just answered it, you know.
But he said you told him that you need to call her.
All right.
Why would you need to call her? I mean, that's an odd phrase for someone who's sitting next to you in the truck. Do you understand? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see exactly what you're saying. But I mean, that's what if that right there is what I told him, that right there is what I told him. We wasn't on the phone that long, but normally I would just, she handles all that, and that's what I would do. She's not going to want to mess with that kind of stuff that late.
Uh-oh. That's a problem. Let's bring back in our guests, Heather Cohen, Erica Morris, and Bob Mott. Bob, that's another problem. This is like a great, logic question. Like you say you have to call, and Steve Lawson doesn't even know Crystal's name, right? Doesn't even know. Who's that woman, Kay? Was it Kay? Who was? And then this is how you do phone calls on reality shows. You put people on speaker so the cameras can hear everything. Bob, man, unreal.
What a sham. What a sham. You can just tell that going into this interview, obviously he had spoken with his brother. Obviously he said at some point, I need you to call during this interview. And he also told Steve to do the same thing. This whole thing was like the worst acting job I've ever seen. And then he jams himself up. That whole thing where, like you said, with the fake Crystal, what's her name? Oh, Crystal. Come on, man. I mean, this thing, that portion of the interview is going to be his downfall.
Yeah. The other part of it, Erica, I'm not a body language expert, but at the moment where he's being kind of cross-examined, he's got his legs and change his posture and everything. And it's like he just took he just took a shot right there.
I laughed because when he got off the phone, he sat up and he was proud as a peacock, very defiant, There's my statement. There. See, that's why I talked to him that night. And he thought he was in the clear. And I read some coverage on this where they said that the detective sat back and really pondered his follow-up question, which was just that, that right punch to the jaw he didn't see coming. And all of a sudden he's, a 2-minute stammering question and his body language is real defensive, like you said. I'm thinking from you, as a prosecutor standpoint, this has got to be gold.
It is gold. This is absolute gold. Because jurors, they get the vibe. Everything we're reacting to, they'll react to as well. So Heather, let me ask you about Steve Lawson. What were you able to dig up anything on him? Did you find out anything about him? What's his relationship with Brooks Houck?
That is the first that I had heard his name. If I had heard it, I don't recall. But I will tell you that I had heard previously about an employee of Brooks Houck that had some information, who had come forward with that information. And I don't want to disclose because I don't know if that's part of the, the indictment.
Right. Yeah, don't disclose that
right
name.
now.
We don't need it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, not the name, but I'm just saying I know that there was an employee that had some information. And before law enforcement was able to get a search warrant to go secure that evidence, that somehow the evidence disappeared and was gone before they were ever able to go get it. So I have a feeling that might be part of what's about to unfold.
Absolutely. So, Bob, what do you expect to learn when he's in court at the arraignment?
Well, hopefully what they're going to do is the state will give a basis for the charges. So we should get some factual basis in terms of, what evidence they've procured up to this point. So hopefully we're going to get to hear some juicy tidbits in terms of what they've got on them thus far. Also, we're going to hopefully hear the connection between him and Lawson, the arrest that preceded him. So, because clearly there was something going on here. Clearly there was multiple people involved here, too. Potentially more, it sounds like. So that first court date is going to be fascinating from our perspective because we're going to finally get some information beyond just the indictment itself. It's going to be a big day in court.
Erica Morris, do you think they'll ever be able to bring her home like her mom wants?
The best way to keep a secret is to not tell anyone else. And I think we have 4 really good individuals here in terms of who know information. I think somebody's going to talk. I think somebody's going to sing. And let's not forget, this conspiracy charge could include a second murder, and that is Tommy Ballard. So we are nowhere near done. As mentioned earlier by Bob, really this is when the investigation takes off. And so I anticipate not only more arrests, but more charges against the 2 who are already in custody.
And Heather, how about the investigation into the murder of Tommy Ballard? Much different case.
Yes, it is. Tommy, he was just fighting so hard for his daughter. He died for her justice. He paid the ultimate price. He was on the house. He was getting close. Everybody knew that he was not going to rest. And really, he had so much information. Tommy had already accumulated so much information on the house and on the case. I know that today is, he's watching from above, and I know that, or at least I hope that he can have his peace and have his rest soon.
Well, I want to thank everyone for joining us. This story, as soon as it hit this morning, I said we need to get some experts in, and we absolutely did tonight. Heather Cohen, Erica Morse, Bob Mata. Thank you all so much. Defense Diaries is the podcast. Make sure you check it out. We'll see you again really, really soon.